They make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit.
U.S. President Donald Trump has repeatedly said he wants auto production out of Canada.
Canada's auto sector is in a very tangled web with the United States. Vehicles made here have at least 50% American parts. And the U.S. is by far Canada's biggest purchaser of finished vehicles. So the tariff war between the two countries has the entire sector on edge. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick took a shot at Canada's auto industry. Lutnick spoke at a conference in Toronto where, behind closed doors, he reportedly told the audience that when it comes to the auto sector, it's America first, Canada second. Ontario Premier Doug Ford heard that full speech, saying it was clear Washington wants Canadian car assembly operations moved to the U.S.
I would say it's a massive threat when you have the Secretary of Commerce coming out and saying that, and the President. You'd only say it if the President gave him the green light. So we have to be prepared.
This is news that is hitting Canadian auto workers very hard. We know Stellantis did have those plans to create the Jeep Compass out of that assembly plant in Brampton, Ontario. And now news that is leaving Ontario and going instead south of the border. And that's going to lead to a direct impact to 3,000 Canadian jobs.
Definitely shocking. This is not good news.
3,000 Canadian auto workers are the latest caught in the crossfire of the U.S. trade war.
This creates more uncertainty and more anxiety. They don't know if they're going to have a job to go back to now.
Stellantis shut down production at its Brampton, Ontario plant early last year for retooling, but vowed the closure was temporary. Now the company says it is shifting production of its Jeep Compass from Brampton to Illinois, writing, "Canada is very important to us. We have plans for Brampton and will share them upon further discussions with the Canadian government." The move is part of a plan to expand Stellantis production into the States by 50% over the next 4 years.
If Canada removes the tariffs on Chinese EVs, China will then remove tariffs on Canadian agricultural products?
So if Canada removes the unilateral unjustified tariffs on Chinese products, China will also reciprocate accordingly. And if the EV tariffs are removed, then China will also remove the tariffs on the relevant products of Canada.
Trump's team just sent a chilling message to Canada's auto industry. America comes first, everyone else follows. Yup. His official, Howard Lutnick, basically told Canada to pack up his auto plants and move them to the US. But here's the twist. While Washington is threatening, China is smiling. They are offering Canada an economic lifeline that could totally flip the auto industry on its head. Let's break this down because this might be the biggest power shift in North America's history. So grab your coffee, hit that like button, and let's dive right in. Oh, and if you love this kind of content and want to support the channel, you already know what to do. Buy me a coffee, link is over there. Here's what's happening. Trump's guy, Howard Lutnick, didn't mince words. In private conversations that leaked, he said straight up, the US comes first. Every other country follows. Translation, Canada's 50-50 auto partnership with the US, the one that, built millions of jobs and kept both economies humming, is done. Trump wants a 100% made in America auto industry. No made in Ontario, no shared supply chains, just red, white, and blue auto manufacturing lines. They want Canadian automakers like Ford Canada, GM Oshawa, Toyota Ontario to literally move south. He's calling it economic alignment. I call it what it is, economic bullying. And Canadians are fuming because if those factories move, tens of thousands of jobs vanish. Cities like Oshawa, Windsor, and Oakville, ghost towns. And the US knows that. That's the pressure play.
So according to Melanie Joly and also the Premier of Saskatchewan, folks, the talks with China in regards to easing the tariff on Canadian canola has gone far better than expected. So much so that there's things on the table that we need to talk about and need to discuss. So they are looking at the possibility of lifting the restrictions on Chinese electric vehicles to the Canadian market. There's been a restriction, as you know, on Chinese EVs in Canada. That is on the table, and as a result of that, potentially as a result of that, China will remove the 100% tariff on Canadian canola. Folks, let me know what you think about this in the comments. The source for this is the Canadian Press again.
But here is where it gets juicy. While Trump's team is threatening, China is making Canada an offer it might not refuse. See, Canada followed Washington's lead and slapped a 100% tariff on China's electric vehicles, and Beijing hit back hard with their own 100% on Canadian canola oil, pork, and seafood. Western Canada's farmers, they are taking the heat.
It's all I've ever done, so if you ever have the thought that crosses my mind where maybe it's not financially viable, of course that's stressful. Whenever there's an issue like that with one of the main importers of canola, it's obviously going to have an effect on the price, which then in turn affects us. Because when we grow a crop like this, that's expensive to grow, and we've got it to a point where we have the maximum amount of dollars put into this crop, and then an announcement like that just essentially dropped 50 cents a bushel right off the top. Right with that announcement, and who knows what it'll do over the next month or two, or however long this lasts.
I'm extremely disappointed with respect to the decision that the country of China has made in further increasing their temporary tariffs on our canola seeds, which will add to the existing tariffs on canola oil and meal. This is a response to the government's tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles largely, and China's decision to impose preliminary anti-dumping duties, or what we would call temporary tariffs, is set at 75.8%. That's on Canadian canola seed as of August the 14th, this Thursday. That will have a devastating impact on the price points for Saskatchewan's canola industry, and I would say ultimately Saskatchewan's ag producers.
Now, Beijing is saying, let's talk. If Canada lifts its EV tariff, China will drop its tariff on Canadian goods. It's an olive branch, but a powerful one. Even Manitoba's Premier Howard Lutnick is saying we need to rethink this. Our farmers are paying the price. And honestly, he's right.
Manitoba Premier Howard Lutnick telling Ottawa to scrap its levy on Chinese electric vehicles to entice Beijing to drop its tariffs on Canadian canola and pork. Writing to Carney, seized the opportunity presented by recent remarks from the Chinese ambassador to Canada. He indicated that China is prepared to lift its tariffs on Canadian canola and pork if Canada removes the 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe also pushing Carney to scrap the EV duty, writing, "It's time for Ottawa to get this deal done on behalf of 200,000 Canadian workers."
Because what does Canada gain by copying Trump's tariff war? Nothing, except higher costs and angry trading partners. But if Canada accepts China's deal, it could unlock new markets, boost exports, and get this, diversify the auto industry away from the US grip.
Breaking news this morning is that Stellantis is shutting down its auto plants in Brampton, Ontario, which is causing a lot of concern for the auto workers in Ontario, where I live, which is a big part of our economy, let's just be fair. There were statements put out by Maky, the Prime Minister, and Doug Ford. But what I'm going to ask you to do is to look at a statement, a video by someone else, someone you haven't heard about much here in Canada. I'm going to ask you to go look at Sean Fain. That name might not sound familiar to you, all right? But I've been watching Sean Fain for a while. He is the leader of the United Auto Workers across the border in America. He's a very clever guy, really smart. And what he's doing in that video, which he posted to social media this morning, is celebrating that Stellantis made this move and taking credit for it. Because what he's saying is our auto workers, the unions down south, work together to influence the Trump administration to, one, put targeted tariffs on auto sectors, and two, get more jobs back for them because they're losing jobs down there. So this was a concerted effort by the unions down south. And this, Sean, to his credit, which, like I said, clever negotiator, he worked very cleverly with both politicians, not just the Trump administration, but also with the Biden administration. When Biden was in power, he really knew how to make these moves to make things happen for his workers, which is his job. I mean, he's the head of the union down there, so it makes sense that he would do this, all right? But it indicates to you where this relationship is going. The US and Canada relationship on auto is doomed if it isn't clear. The writing is on the wall. First of all, we have tariffs. Second of all, we have people down south who want their jobs back. They want reshoring. They want the jobs back down there. And third, those jobs are doomed already because none of those automakers can compete with the Chinese competition right now. They cannot make cars as cheaply, as productively, and with the unions pressuring them, are the unions going to take a pay cut? How are you going to get an affordable car? If they can negotiate to get the jobs back, they can negotiate better pay, all right? And they already get paid more than anyone making cars in China, right? You have to understand that North America's auto sector is facing doom. It's facing doom to the degree that even Tesla's CEO is giving up on it. In all his earnings calls, all he's talking about is AI and robotics. He isn't even mentioning cars anymore because he sees the writing on the wall that this is a doomed industry. So what we need to do is move on to the cheaper product for the benefit of auto buyers. People who buy cars outnumber the number of people who work in car manufacturing. We need to transition that industry into something else, clean energy, nuclear, maybe building data centers or something. We need to get more blue collar work where the future is. And the future is not in building cars for America. It might be for building cars for Chinese makers. Maybe in the future we can convince them to make a plant over here, and that would be a more reasonable bet for the future.
This is the most important economic moment for Canada in years. Option 1, obey Washington, move auto production south and become a passenger in America's car. Option 2, open up to Beijing, bring in EV investment and take the driver's seat. Canada can't afford to be anyone's sidekick anymore. If Canada says yes to China's EV proposal, it could spark billions in new investments, create true made in Canada EV revolution, and re-establish trade with the world's biggest markets. But the US won't like that. They will call it betrayal. They will threaten more tariffs, maybe even tech restrictions. The question is, does Canada have the courage to chart its own course? Because right now, Trump's team is saying follow or get left behind. But China is saying partner with us and we both grow. So which voice will Ottawa listen to? Let's keep it real. This isn't just about cars. It's about sovereignty, independence, and the right for Canada to decide its own economic destiny. Canada has spent decades building a partnership with the US. But now, that partnership feels more like a chain than a handshake. If Canada chooses to leave those tariffs, it could be a game changer, not just for trade, but for who holds the steering wheel of our future. So what do you think? Should Canada keep following the US or make a bold new deal with China? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Hit that like, share with a friend who needs to see this, and if you haven't yet, subscribe for more truths, more trade wars, and more power plays. Because this story is just getting started. America first. Canada's reply might just be, not this time. So YouTube thinks you will like this video over here. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Au revoir.